Welcome to my channel Alien Signal. The frontier world of Karthos 9 was not a place humans were meant to walk. Even the stars seemed distant there. A dim red sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across jagged stone valleys and forests of towering black spires that passed for trees. The air smelled of iron and strange minerals, and every creature that moved across the land had claws, teeth, or venom. It was a predator's world. Which was exactly why Elena Carter had come. Officially, she was part of a small human xenobiology expedition studying the ecosystems of unclaimed planets beyond the Outer Treaty. Unofficially, Elena simply loved learning about life, no matter how dangerous that life might be. Her team had warned her about wandering too far from base. Everything here hunts something, her colleague Malik had told her the day they landed. Elena had smiled. So do we. Still, she knew Karthos 9 was different. The planet belonged to the territory of the Valkyrie, one of the most feared species in the known galaxy. Apex predators both biologically and politically, the Valkyrie were rarely seen by outsiders. Their society was ruled by something called the Predator Council. Even hardened smugglers avoided crossing them. Elena didn't expect to see any Valkyrie at all. She was wrong. The discovery happened on the fourth day of exploration. Elena had been cataloging plant samples in a narrow ravine when she heard the sound. A cry. Not human. Not quite animal either. High-pitched. Desperate. She froze. Her training told her to stay still. On a predator world, distress calls often meant a trap. But the sound came again. Smaller this time. Weak. Elena sighed quietly and activated the small scanner on her wrist. Probably going to regret this, she muttered. The signal led her deeper into the ravine until the rocky path opened into a small hollow surrounded by jagged cliffs. That's when she saw them. 3 small creatures huddled together among the stones. At first glance, they looked like miniature versions of the terrifying Valkyrie described in human reports. Sleek dark fur, large glowing eyes, and claws already sharp enough to tear flesh. But they were tiny, barely the size of house cats. Cubs. And they were terrified. The smallest one limped forward, making a soft whining sound. Elena slowly lowered herself to a crouch. Well, hello there. The cubs sniffed the air cautiously. They didn't run. That meant one of 2 things. Either they were too young to recognize danger, or they were too desperate to care. Elena scanned the area again. No adult Valkyrie, no nests, no signs of a den, which meant these cubs had been separated from their pack. Or worse. Great, Elena whispered. Lost alien predator babies. She looked up at the cliffs surrounding them. That's when she noticed the tracks. Large, heavy, not Valkyrie. Something else had been here. And it was coming back. The attack happened fast. A deep roar echoed across the ravine. The cubs instantly froze. Elena turned just in time to see the creature leap from the rocks above. It was enormous. 6 legs. A body like armored muscle. Jaws lined with jagged teeth longer than her fingers. A Thrax scavenger. She recognized it from the expedition database. A brutal predator that specialized in hunting young creatures, including cubs. Oh hell. The Thrax landed between Elena and the ravine exit. It had already chosen its meal. The cubs whimpered. Elena's mind raced. She could run, but the cubs couldn't. And once the Thrax finished them, it would come after her anyway. The creature growled and stepped closer. Elena slowly stood. All right, she whispered to herself. She pulled the small emergency pulse pistol from her belt. It wasn't meant for combat. Just deterrence. Let's hope you scare easy. The Thrax lunged. Elena fired. The pulse blast struck its armored chest and flashed brightly, but the creature barely slowed. Oh come on. It slammed into her with terrifying force. Elena crashed into the ground as pain exploded through her shoulder. The pistol flew from her hand. Behind her, the cubs cried out. The Thrax turned toward them. Elena forced herself up. No, she staggered forward and stepped between the predator and the cubs. Blood dripped from her arm. The Thrax tilted its head. Confused. Humans were not normal prey here. But hunger won quickly. It attacked again. Elena grabbed a broken piece of metal from her pack and swung with everything she had. The improvised blade scraped across the creature's jaw. Not enough to kill, but enough to anger it. The Thrax roared and slashed with its claws. Pain burned across Elena's ribs as she was thrown backward. She collapsed in front of the cubs. One of them pressed against her side, trembling. Elena forced a weak smile. "Don't worry, I've got you." Another attack. Another desperate block. Claws tore through her sleeve. Blood soaked the ground. She was losing. Badly. But she refused to move. The cubs were behind her. And that meant the predator would have to go through her first. Minutes felt like hours. Each strike from the Thrax grew heavier. Elena's vision blurred. Her legs shook. But she stayed standing. One last roar echoed through the ravine. Then everything went dark. When Elena opened her eyes again, the sky was gone. Instead, cold metal walls surrounded her. Bright white lights glowed overhead. She tried to move, and winced. Bandages covered her torso and arm. Someone had treated her wounds. But who? A deep voice echoed through the chamber. Human. Elena turned, and froze. Standing before her were 6 towering figures. Valkyrie, fully grown. Up close they were even more intimidating than human reports described. Taller than any person, covered in sleek dark fur, with glowing amber eyes that seemed to pierce straight through her. Each one wore intricate armor marked with strange alien symbols. Elena swallowed. The Predator Council. Every instinct told her this was very, very bad. One of them stepped forward. "You defended our young." Elena blinked. "You're young." Another Valkyrie gestured toward the far side of the chamber. 3 small shapes emerged from behind the towering figures. The cubs. Alive. Healthy. One of them trotted forward happily. Elena let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Oh, thank God." The cub nudged her hand affectionately. The council members watched silently. Observing. Studying. Finally, the largest Valkyrie spoke. "Our hunters arrived as the Thrax struck you down." Elena nodded weakly. "Good timing. You placed yourself between death and our offspring." "Yeah, well, they were small." The Valkyrie tilted its head. "You are fragile compared to us. You had little chance of survival." Elena shrugged. Someone had to try. The chamber fell silent again. The council members exchanged low growls in their language. Then the leader spoke. "In Valkyrie culture, strength is everything." Elena nodded slowly. "Yeah, I've heard. But strength is not only the ability to kill." The council leader stepped closer. "It is the willingness to protect." The cub beside Elena chirped softly. The Valkyrie continued. "You fought an apex predator while wounded and alone, for children not of your species." Elena laughed weakly. "When you say it like that, it sounds stupid." On the contrary, the Valkyrie's glowing eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "It is extraordinary." Another council member stepped forward. "Most species fear us." "Smart species," Elena muttered. The Valkyrie ignored the comment. "But you protected Valkyrie life without hesitation." The leader raised a clawed hand. "In doing so, you have earned something few outsiders ever receive." Elena frowned. "And what's that?" The council spoke in unison. "Respect." The word echoed through the chamber. Elena blinked. "Well, that's new." The leader gave a low rumbling sound that might have been amusement. From this moment forward, the Valkyrie recognized humanity as allies. Elena stared. "Wait, seriously, you demonstrated the core truth of your species." "And what's that?" The council leader's eyes glowed brighter. That humans are not merely hunters. You are guardians. The cubs gathered around Elena again. One climbed carefully into her lap. The leader spoke one final time. Your actions will be remembered across our worlds. Elena sighed. No pressure, right? The Valkyrie Council watched her quietly. Not as prey, not as an outsider, but as something rare, something worthy. A protector who had stood before a predator and refused to move. And in a galaxy ruled by strength. That was the kind of courage even the most feared predators respected. Far above the world of Karthos 9, the stars continued their silent watch. And somewhere among them, a new story about humanity began to spread. A story the Predator Council itself would never forget. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.